Hey you guys, today for Reading Workshop we are going to be constructing the sense of another time. Basically we are going to be focusing on the setting of a story. Since these books are taking place in another time, the setting is going to provide so much information to us. And it's going to be critical that you know how to analyze and look at a setting so you can better understand your book. So with that being said, let's really delve deep today into the setting of our stories so we can bring this kind of information to our book discussions each day. So today's teaching point is that you need to be ready to pay extra attention to the details about the setting in your story. Particular to When you're reading your stories, it's going to be really important for you to pay very close attention to the setting of a story. We know that books have many different settings throughout the entire novel, but each setting has a certain responsibility to the story. And as a reader, it's your responsibility to pay really close attention to those settings because the setting is going to provide you with so much information. I want you to really pay attention to what a place looks like. When you're in a town or you're in a certain area, create that image in your mind of how a place looks, how it feels. We know that a setting has a feeling. I could be in a place that's really cold, or it could be really hot, or I could be uncomfortable. I could feel like I have bugs on me. These are all feelings, right? But most importantly, as well as details suggesting how a place could change. Because as we know in stories, the stories always change throughout. It doesn't stay constant. That would make a boring story. So pay attention to details that are going to give you hints to when the story may be changing or when it could be changing. Okay guys, I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to read you a part of a story. The story is called Rose Blanche. And now before I read any type of historical fiction book, I always want to rev up my mind before reading. That is something that good readers of historical fiction always do. And we talked about this in previous lessons. I'm going to sit there and identify the time period that this book is taking place. And it's taking place during World War II. I also want to know what I'm kind of in for when I'm reading it. And just by looking at this book that I have, I can tell that there could be some trouble a-brewing. So here's what I know from the blurb on the back cover. This is a story about a girl who lives in a small town in Germany during World War II. The author says that he wanted to write a story about a place where something terrible is happening that most people want to ignore. Wow. So that's got me kind of fascinated and ready to read. You guys, I am all revved up and I'm ready to look for some details about what kind of place this is in Germany that this author is talking about, that he wants to write about, that people want to ignore. So I'm going to look for details that tell me what it looks like and what it feels like. So I'm looking at the first picture of the story, and I see the story starts off with a picture of a small girl wearing a yellow dress and a blue hair bow, right? She's in a crowded town square. It's kind of like on the streets, and she and a lot of others are holding small red flags with a black symbol in the middle. It's what we call swastika. And all around her, there are soldiers getting into trucks. So let me go ahead and now follow along with me as I read you the story. And as we're reading, look for details that are going to tell us what this place looks like and what it feels like. My name is Rose Blanche. I live in a small town in Germany with narrow streets, old fountains, and tall houses with pigeons on the roofs. One day the first truck arrived and many men left. They were dressed as soldiers. Winter was beginning. Now the trucks follow each other under the school windows. They are full of soldiers we don't know, but they wink at us. They drive tanks and make sparks on the cobblestones. They are so noisy and smell like diesel oil. They hurt my ears and I have to hold my nose as they pass by. So what does this place look like and feel like? Well, it's a small town in Germany. It has narrow streets, old fountains, and tall houses with pigeons on roofs. So it sounds like it's been a quiet, old place for some time. It actually feels very peaceful. I picture the streets. They have stones on the streets. That's what's called cobblestone. And the birds are flying from the roof to roof. Sounds pretty peaceful to me. But let's see. I know to expect that trouble is going to be brewing, right? Right from the start. Because Rose says that it's starting to be a place that's full of trucks and soldiers. I mean, yeah, they're friendly soldiers who wink. And it's not only the trucks, but it's the tanks too. So I don't know about you guys, but in my neighborhood, we don't have soldiers up and down the streets, and we don't have tanks and, military trucks going up and down the street. It doesn't really sound peaceful anymore, right? It doesn't sound like birds. It sounds like engines to me now, and it smells like diesel. When I start thinking about the trucks and the tanks and all the soldiers, that peaceful image now goes away. Now I'm thinking about a town that may be getting ready for war, because those are the types of things that you use in war. So now I can see how the story is already starting to unfold. Do you see how I use the details from the story to help me figure out what could be happening later on? That's what you need to pay close attention to in your stories. Okay, now it's your turn to do this. I want you to practice being extra alert to details that tell you what kind of place this is for Rose, or what type of place it's becoming, paying special attention to signs of trouble. You can go ahead, you can jot down any kind of notes that you want as you're listening. You can put it on a piece of paper. You can even pause the video and put it into Notability or into a Post-it note. I am going to ask everybody that when you are done, that you submit this assignment during this video to the standard-based grading Dropbox. So I'm expecting to see something from everyone. You can simply title this Rose's Story. Pause the video here to get your paper ready to submit. Now that you've got your paper ready to submit, either on a Post-it note or something that you want to turn in, and it's simply titled Rose's Story, so I can identify it tonight when I'm looking at your story. Pay close attention again to details on what kind of place this is or what it's becoming, and paying for special attention to signs of trouble, just like I did in the previous example. Please follow along with me if you guys would. Sometimes it seems things haven't really changed, but my mother wants me to be careful crossing the street between all the trucks. She says soldiers won't slow down. Lots of times I walk by the river just looking at it. Branches float along and sometimes old broken toys. I like the color of the river. It looks like the sky. The trucks are fun to watch. We stand in the doorway as they pass. We don't know where they are going, but we think they are going someplace on the other side of the river. One day, one of them stopped, and the soldiers could repair the engine. A little boy in the back of the truck jumped out and tried to run away, but the mayor was standing there in the middle of the street. He grabbed the little boy by the collar and brought him back to the truck. Then he smiled at the soldiers without speaking, and they thanked him. The sky was gray. The soldiers climbed back in the truck, the door is shut, and it pulled away. It happened very fast. Now, if you need to, you can go back and you can listen to this part of the story again. But on your Post-it note, you should give me a couple of details. It doesn't have to be very long, just a couple of quick little thoughts. Just jot down some words about what types of place you think this is, or what it's becoming, and did you identify any signs of trouble? Pause the video here and do that now for me before you continue on. I don't know about you guys, but one thing that stood out to me was the fact that the river had all kinds of dirty toys that was floating through them. This doesn't seem like the type of place that was peaceful anymore and that children can play, Because when the river is full with like dirty, broken toys, that tells me that the place is no longer a peaceful place, a beautiful place, and it's becoming ugly because of war. Because let's face it, war is ugly. Now, I know that lesson may have seemed deep. You're probably thinking, wow, that's really hard to pay attention to the setting and to get that kind of information from it. I'm not going to lie. It is hard, but it's also very possible. You guys are great readers, and if you are putting yourself into the story the way you've been taught over the course of the year, it's a lot easier than you think. That's why empathy, and that's why putting yourself in the story is so important. So today, as you're reading your book club stories, I want you to, from this day and every single day, pay special attention to the scene of the story. What does it look like, feel like, and be on the alert for possible signs of trouble. All of these things will help you uncover the theme of your story and help you comprehend your book so much better. Make sure to include this information on Post-it notes to be submitted and to be discussed in your book clubs. Let me repeat that again. Make sure to include this information about the scene, about what it looks like, feels like, and signs for trouble. Submit that information to the Dropbox and be ready to discuss that each and every day with your book clubs. Good luck today.